First pillar, we're going to start with the heavy hitter, exercise. So, how many people have tried to start an exercise routine in the past? How many people have been successful long-term with the exercise routine? All right, a couple people. There you go. There you go. Everybody just shout out a couple reasons that other people, not you, but other people that you know don't do good with an exercise routine. Because they're lazy. All right, see, someone's got to start us off here. We're gonna engage with each other today. It takes time. Family life. What was it?
You don't get the results.
Don't get the results you're looking for. Okay. Injuries.
Too hard, too fast.
Go too hard, too fast. The all or nothing approach. Yep. So I work with a lot of people in the office, and the most common things that I hear from my patients is they don't have time. You guys nailed it. They don't have the equipment that it takes, or don't know what they're supposed to do, or they don't want to go to LA Fitness and fight a bunch of high school kids in short shorts, or they're whatever hurts, or they've got pain and injuries and things like that. So today the goal, talking about exercise, is we're going to kind of shift what that target looks like. So we're going to talk about consistency over intensity. So figuring out a plan, again, for what are you going to fall back to? What is it that you can do repeatedly on a regular basis, despite what's going on in your life? How to build momentum by staying consistent, and then how we can think of exercise in terms of what are we doing that's helping our body adapt. Because the reality is our body is adapting every single day. We're either getting better and adapting in a forward way, or we're getting worse and adapting negatively. So we have to make a decision every day to do something that's going to help our body adapt the way that we want it to. When it comes to movement, I think a lot of people think of exercise and they think of, I got to build a bunch of muscle so I can look like Josh back there and be a bodybuilder. When in reality, we want to think about exercise as long-term health, building a savings account. Exercise is the single best thing that you can do to support your metabolism. So we talk about don't get the results that you're looking for. A lot of people don't get the results they're looking for with weight or with energy or with sleep because their metabolism is all out of whack. And so exercise is one of the best things you can do for your metabolism, for energy, for supporting your mood, for supporting immune system health. So if exercise were a pill, it would be the most widely prescribed medication in the world, which is crazy. But yet, most people don't do it, which is mind-boggling to me. So today we're going to talk about, again, how you can kind of get your toes wet and get into a good exercise routine. It doesn't even have to be strength training, just some sort of movement routine that you can do daily and stay successful with. Because when you start doing small things daily, it builds momentum and it builds, like, you feel better and it builds confidence, and then you can start snowballing that into bigger and bigger things. So muscle is metabolic currency as we age. It's one of my favorite quotes. I use it all the time. The reality is, one of the biggest predictors of lifespan and longevity is muscle mass. And if you aren't building lean muscle mass now, it's going to be much, much more difficult to do it later down the road when you actually need it. And so this is where we talk about not what are we doing in January, what are we doing in 2026, how long do you want to live, how independent do you want to be into your long age, how much energy do you want to have. Building muscle mass now and exercise is extremely important when we're thinking about our future and what our goals are when we're 70, 80, 90 years old. When we talk about metabolism, blood sugar is incredibly beneficial for blood sugar control. So if we've got blood sugar regulation issues, if we've got diabetes, if we've got insulin resistance, one of the coolest things about muscle is that when you exercise, your body can use, or your muscle can use sugar from the bloodstream without the control of insulin. And what that means is that if you have diabetes, if you have insulin resistance, if you're eating too much sugar, having a higher level of lean body mass can actually help to offset some of that. It builds stronger bones. Who knows what one of the biggest causes of mortality in elderly population is? Falling, breaking a hip, and odds are not in your favor that you're going to make it past 6 months if you fall and break a hip. So how can we help offset falls? We can do balance training. We can do mobility training. How can we help offset fractures? If I fall, I'm probably not going to break my hip. If a 90-year-old person falls, there's a much greater chance that they're going to break their hip because bone density starts to decline. But one of the biggest things that helps support bone density and offset bone loss, especially in females, is muscle mass. Because muscles, when you use them, they pull on the bone. And that pulling on the bone helps to lay down more bone tissue. So it actually helps to maintain bone density. Now, the thing is, most of our bone density has already been laid down and formed by the time we're into our 30s. So for a lot of people, we're not trying to build more bone, but we're trying to slow down the bone loss process, which becomes extremely important because for every year, 5 years, every decade that you don't do something about that, you get worse and worse and worse. So now is the time when we want to be thinking about exercise, from avoiding a fall, from maintaining bone density, from helping support our metabolic health, not from a standpoint of how can I get big muscles so I look like Dr. Connor, right? The other thing is muscle mass is our largest protein reservoir. We think about protein. Jen's going to talk about it in the diet. She's going to reframe the way you think about protein a little bit. So I don't want to steal any of her thunder. But protein in the body gets broken into amino acids. Those amino acids are signaling molecules, and they're used for a ton of different processes. So enzymes in the body, signaling molecules in the body, they're all made from proteins. If we're not consuming enough protein, the body has to pull from lean muscle mass. As we age, we tend to lose weight, we tend to atrophy, things like that. Everybody can picture like the frail old lady. Well, that picture of a person without a lot of lean muscle mass, they don't have a big reservoir. So everything in their body starts to slow down because they haven't done any work to build that reservoir back up. And this is where the savings account. You can't wait till you're retired to start building your savings account, or it's too late. You've got to start thinking about what you can do to build that savings account now when you actually have the resources and the tools to be able to make significant changes. So this is kind of the mindset shift that we want to make around exercise and its importance. Exercise is not all or nothing thinking, like what you said over there. We don't want to wait until we get motivated, right? We need to have some sort of internal drive of why is it important to me that I have a healthy workout routine. And we don't want to go too hard too fast, which is why having those small things that you can add in and just knowing where to start, where do I need to start so that I can get to those results down the line. So consistent progress, knowing what 100% is. This is one of my, I saw this a long time ago on a post somewhere talking about 100%. And 100% effort is not always the same thing, right? So it's not about always going to the gym and giving 100%. It's 100% of what you have to give in that day. So if I wake up and I feel terrible, I need to just recognize that like what I'm doing, I'm not going to go do the same thing. I'm going to give an effort based on where I'm at on that day. So it's not, I didn't sleep well last night or I don't have time, so I'm just going to do nothing. That's the all or nothing thinking. It's I'm going to give 100% from where I'm at right now and what I have to give, which could be I didn't sleep very well and I feel like I'm starting to get sick. So instead of going for a 10-mile run, I'm going to go do some light mobility training. I didn't give up my movement altogether. I changed it based on where I'm at. And that's kind of one of the biggest things is just understanding, like being able to self-reflect, say, where am I today? What do I have to give today? And how can I incorporate a movement routine that supports where I'm at today? And a sustainable plan, right? So I want you to just ask yourself, what is the minimum effective dose for a movement routine? What counts as a movement routine? And for me, what I tell my patients, what I've kind of landed on, is it's 20 minutes of intentional movement done every single day. How many people have 20 minutes in their day? How many people are prioritizing things that are not as important as long-term metabolic health in that 20 minutes a day, right? So what is that 20 minutes of intentional movement? What does intentional movement mean? Because that's the other big thing. I fight with people all the time in my office who want to try to convince me that what they're doing is intentional movement, and it's not. So this is where we're going to have a little bit of a reality check. You may feel a little bit conflicted by this. That's fine. You may not like me, but I don't really care. So what counts as intentional movement? Walking counts, stretching counts, body weight exercises count, bands count. There's a lot of things that count. The biggest thing is what does not count. And if you sit across from me and you tell me you're doing these things, so you're doing your movement, I'm going to yell at you. I may have yelled at some of you in the office, I don't know. Having a physical job does not count as intentional movement because the intention is not improve my bone density, improve my metabolic health, improve my muscular whatever, right? The intention needs to be on what we're trying to do. Cleaning, vacuuming for 20 minutes does not count as intentional movement. I'm sorry, it just doesn't. Cooking doesn't count as intentional movement. The biggest thing is the intention behind what we're doing needs to be purposeful, right? So you can have a physical job. I have a very physical job. That doesn't count as my intentional movement for the day. So the types of movement that matter. And you don't need to do all of these every single day. So strength training, when we talked about the metabolic health, blood sugar regulation, bone density, all that stuff, that falls into the strength training category. What's the actual leading cause of death in the US? Heart disease. So we got to do something to protect our heart. Cardiovascular exercise, super important. How many people know other people who are afraid of doing cardio? I know people who are afraid of doing cardio. We're going to talk about that. Don't need to be afraid of doing cardio, but we have to do it. Balance training, especially important as you age. And then flexibility and mobility training. This comes back to a lot of the injuries. People want to go to like F45 and they get thrown into a huge group class. No one's paying attention to them. Their body doesn't move properly and they end up getting hurt. And so there's a fear a lot of people have of building a strong like strength training regimen because of mobility issues. So maybe our 20 minutes of intentional movement isn't even focused on cardio or strength for the first month. Maybe we're just focused on getting more flexible so we can build a stronger routine in the future that we're not going to be worried about getting hurt with. If we try to look at this in terms of like what does an ideal week look like? Now, this is a very broad generalization. Everybody has different goals. Everybody's at a different point in their life. This could change dramatically. But in general, if we're looking at this from like a offsetting bone loss standpoint, from doing enough to kind of meet the threshold of building lean muscle mass, we've got to have at least 2 to 3 strength training sessions a week. It does not mean you got to go to LA Fitness and fight high schoolers for 45 minutes on machines all by yourself. But it has to be something that applies a force to your bone from muscle. Does that make sense? You've got to do cardio, zone 2 cardio, 90 to 120 minutes a week. Zone 2 cardio is conversational. So I should be able to speak in full sentences. You can go for a walk with your friend next door. You want to get to the point that you can't sit here and deliver a presentation for 20 minutes like I'm doing, but you want to be able to at least have a conversation back and forth. If we get into zone 3 training is really good as well. Zone 3 is going to be more like I can speak in sentences. Zone 4 is I can say a single word. Zone 5 is I'm bleeding from my eyes. So 90 to 120 minutes a week of zone 2 cardio. Now, if you're going for a walk and you like leisurely walks with your husband or your wife at the end of the night, that's fine, but I want to challenge you to do something that elevates your heart rate a little bit higher than just this feels easy. So it can be stopping every light post and doing 10 air squats, or it could be doing jumping jacks or something that fluctuates and gets that like average heart rate a little bit higher. So we want the heart rate in zone 2 for 90 to 120 minutes. And a lot of times this is people are already doing this type of stuff. They just need to do a little bit more intentional work with it to get into that category there. Zone 5, this is what people are afraid of a lot of times, is the high intensity interval training. So this is like one of the single best things that you can do to offset cardiovascular risk is high intensity interval training. This does not mean you have to go do a CrossFit workout for 45 minutes. This is like 10 to 15 to 20 minutes a week of something that gets your heart rate to the point that you feel like you're going to die, which if you have heart issues, don't do that. But this is your zone 5, right? So generalizations here, people. I don't want to be responsible for somebody keeling over because they went and ran wind sprints when they shouldn't have been doing that. But wind sprints are great. The key here with the interval training is that we get the heart rate up, 30 seconds to a minute of really, really high heart rate, and then we fully recover. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. How long does it take for your heart rate to come back down to where you're breathing normal and you feel like you can speak in sentences again? So that's the big thing, is it's a really fast interval, and then it's bringing your heart rate back down. I do this in my run training and stuff. I'll do 30-second sprints, and then I'll walk for a minute until my heart rate fully comes back down into zone 2. I wear a tracker so I can actually see my heart rate, so I know exactly where I'm at. But I'm getting my heart rate extremely high and coming back down. It does not have to be running. You could do burpees. You could do the stair-stepping machine. If you already walk on a treadmill, you could increase the incline of the treadmill. You could go run in a pool if you've got knee issues. There's a lot of ways to increase your heart rate. So this is why I wanted this like general framework of what we're looking for. The way that you increase your heart rate like that is totally up to you, but think 30 seconds to a minute and then a full recovery, regardless of how long it takes you to fully recover. If you can't get it, and this, like, don't shoot for 30 seconds to 60 seconds. If you can't make it that far, that's fine. Start with 5 seconds of high heart rate, and then go to 10 seconds and 15 seconds. Like, start where you're at and work on building up to that. But if we want to get really, really powerful cardiovascular benefit, this is a really important part of our training. It's something that we can't neglect. You can't just pick one aspect, just like you can't pick one of the 4 pillars. You can't just pick one thing and do all strength training and just think that you're going to be protected for life, right? And then the mobility work and balance is needed. I personally am really passionate about helping people with recovery and things like that. I've got a whole YouTube channel dedicated to it. I work with a lot of like runners, and I do triathlons and things like that. So I see it all the time with my friends and other people in the sport that they spend so much money. They hire a coach, they do all this stuff to develop a really, really strong training plan, and then they don't pay any attention to recovery. So if you're going to be doing a lot of training, you've got to have a good recovery plan as well. So at 3Form, there's going to be a whole recovery suite, active and passive recovery. You can sit in the hot tub, you can go for a chill walk with your husband or your wife. That's good recovery. But we've got to do stuff with mobility work and balance as well. Questions about that? Because this is kind of the important thing. Yes?
The zone 2, you're saying 90 to 120 minutes
Per week, yes.
per week, and the same thing with the cardio, it's all per week.
Yeah, the zone 2 cardio. Sorry, this is, setting up an ideal week. 2 to 3 times strength training a week. So you can split that up however you want. You could do a 2-hour run. Most people aren't going to want to just do a 2-hour run on Saturday and call it quits for the week. So space it out throughout the week. If you want to do a 20-minute strength session and a 30-minute Stairmaster, whatever, there you just got 50 minutes allotted towards your weekly goals by doing that. So they can be combined. They don't have to be separate days. You can figure it out however you want to, but you've got to really try to hit these targets here. The one thing I would recommend is doing the HIIT training by itself on a separate day. Any other questions about that? I'm seeing a lot of head nodding, so that means that everybody here is going to have a really good exercise routine, right? All right, cool. So let's talk about the roadblocks, because a lot of people have legitimate things that can get in the way. So I don't have time is probably the most common one. And a lot of people are busy, and I'm not taking anything away from you. I'm just saying you got to prioritize things. I have a whole list of my priorities, and I do them in that order. And exercise and like working on myself is a higher priority than a lot of other things in my life. And if you're really firm on your priorities, then you'll make time for the things that matter. I personally feel that long-term health and looking out for your metabolic health and where you're going to be at in 15 to 20 years from now is extremely important on the list of priorities. If you aren't taking care of yourself, you're not going to be able to work, you're not going to be able to be there for your kids or your family or whatever else. So prioritize yourself and prioritize your exercise as part of your health. If you literally don't have time, workout snacks. No one said it has to be 20 or 45 minutes all at once. Especially with strength training, it's cumulative. If I have 2 minutes between patients, I could go in my office and I could do 10 air squats. And if I do that 5 times throughout the day, I've done 50 air squats, and over the course of a week, I've done 140 air squats, and it adds up to big changes when you look at like the cumulative snowball effect of things. So workout snacks are my favorite thing. I've got a whole exercise guide on that guide table back there. You guys can scan the QR code or ask one of the girls at the front desk and they can get you the exercise guide that breaks this down a little bit more. But there's a whole list of like what exercise snacks could be: jumping jacks, push-ups, sit-ups, push-ups on a wall. Like there's all sorts of things that you can do. The biggest thing is just breaking the mindset that I have to have time to drive to the gym, work out with a trainer, drive home, shower, do all this stuff. You can do small things throughout the day that build up to make big changes over time. I don't have equipment is a big one. Or I don't want to go to LA Fitness and fight the kids. Body weight works totally fine. Bands work really fine. You can slowly build up a gym at your house just by buying simple exercises. YouTube is like honestly one of the best things ever. You can go to YouTube and you can type in 10-minute mobility program with bands and there will be 100 videos for you to, more than 100. So there's all sorts of stuff. YouTube is a really great resource. But the biggest thing to keep in mind with strength work is it's the muscles pulling on the bones. You don't have to have weights for the muscles to pull on the bones. So your body weight works fine, bands work fine for that. And you can buy bands for super cheap. You can get enough equipment at home for $100 to do pretty much anything you need to do to at least get yourself started. And then this is like a legitimate thing, is that I have issues. A lot of people have knee issues or hip issues or foot issues or like legitimate problems with their body that need to be addressed beforehand. The key is, what is your plan of action to overcome that injury? If you're just going to sit there and use that as an excuse for the rest of your life, that's fine, but it's probably not going to be a very long life if you do that. So I would encourage you to think about what your plan is to overcome that issue. We're chiropractors in this office. We love helping people with pain issues. So come find us. We can help you with that. Go to a gym that's going to focus on making sure you're moving properly and you're not getting progressed too fast and you're not going to get injured. Or somebody who knows what they're doing enough to say, okay, you have a legitimate structural issue in your hip, so maybe instead of squatting like this, it's giving you pain your entire life, we turn the foot out and we move you into a position that actually works with your body's physiology. That's why 3Form is here, because the trainers there are awesome, and they're able to actually work with you to find movements that fit your body, and they can help you with getting around certain structural issues or pain issues, things like that. So we don't want to use that as an excuse. We want to create a plan to move past that. And think about pain as an information, not a stop sign. And if you go to the correct person, they're going to understand how to take that pain signal and figure out what's going on and then help fix the problem. All right, so how do we actually make this stick from an exercise standpoint? We've got to adapt to the different seasons in our life. Everybody goes through different seasons. We all just went through the holidays. It's a tough time. So that's where having like the baseline of this is what I do when everything is going crazy is super helpful, because you don't fall all the way back. You fall to the level of the systems that you've put in place. That's also why a lot of what we want to talk about today is like, who am I becoming through this process? Because when you're someone who exercises, it's just what you do and you find a way to make it happen. When you're someone who feels like they have to go to the gym, when life gets busy, you just make up an excuse and you don't go. But when it becomes who you are, it's way easier to actually stay consistent with that plan. We want to focus on progress over perfection. So again, this goes back to what's 100% look like for me today, and how can I make progress today based on where I'm at. And I was going to say something super profound, and I forgot what it was, so I'm sorry. And then, all right, you guys get the point. Be good. So, what's the next step? Do you feel like you need accountability to make this happen? There's a couple different types of accountability that people have. There is I just need an accountability partner. So find someone and say, will you be my accountability partner? Will you check in with me every single day and ask me how I'm doing? Maybe it's the book, and it's the filling out the daily reflection at the end of every day that you have to sit there and write down, I didn't do anything today. Sometimes that's good enough. Is it going to be financial accountability? I'm paying for a personal trainer, or I'm paying for a gym membership. If I don't go, I'm wasting my money. Whatever that accountability looks like, find an accountability partner. Find someone who can guide you. If you've got pain issues, if you just don't know where to start, that's what personal trainers are for. They can help guide you and build that plan out for you. And then if you've got a legitimate injury, create a plan and a strategy to work through it. Don't just sit there in your feels and let it be a reason that you're not doing exercise, right? So, reflection time. What would it feel like if you lost your independence? It's probably a big one. A lot of people probably don't think about in this way with exercise, but I really want you to think about exercise as long-term health. And what would it feel like if you couldn't get out of bed in the morning when you were 60 or 70 years old? What would it feel like if you couldn't tie your own shoes? If you had to have someone come pick you up and take you to go to the grocery store? What are you willing to give up to prevent that from happening? And then what's one movement habit you can repeat